Know a raised arm means I need help, not, hey, this is fun. The guard's skill at spotting that one desperate person among thousands is phenomenal, truly testing his sight and understanding. We see the way we do, so we can spot danger to ourselves. But nothing is threatening the lifeguard. In fact, the eye, observing a harmless pattern across its view, normally relaxes. Motion-sensing rod cells switch off when they detect action that's consistent and constant. So the lifeguard has to trick his eyes. He does this by scanning, forcing his eyes to lock onto small details.
Our frontline defense are the tower guards, and their job is to scan the water. So their eyes are moving across the water and letting their brain filter out that information that they see, looking for something wrong, looking for that odd one out that truly is in danger.
Taking in all this information is hard work. Human sight has only 2 degrees of detail vision at the center. To check the whole beach, the lifeguard sweeps, jumping from point to point for detail. Each jump is called a saccade.
A saccade is the movement that the eyes make together when they're looking directly at one thing, and all of a sudden, they look at something else. We have mechanisms that wire the muscles that move our eyes to the image, and we can quickly lock on to a new image all at once.
The saccade function lets him jump visually from each potential risk to the next. He repeatedly scans his field of vision, updating his visual memory every few seconds. But even more is going on as he uses another complex skill, interpretation of detail.
Being a seasoned lifeguard, I can recognize distressed victims in the water, whether they look really labored, whether they're comfortable or not by their body language. Those are sort of indicators that allow you to recognize a rescue before it happens.
The muscles rotating our eyes give us an astounding breadth of view. Even while perfectly still, we can rotate our eyes from far left to far right in a quarter of a second. So when a riptide suddenly overcomes a swimmer, Drew knows within moments. Now he has to judge whether the swimmer can get back to shore, whether he's too far out for a rescue attempt, or whether despite the riptide, Drew has a chance of reaching him. That split-second call demands an accurate sense of distance.
We have 2 eyes, and they're separated by this distance, and that permits each image to be slightly different than the other image. And that slight dissimilarity gives me a sense of how far away something is.
We constantly judge shifting distances, hardly giving the process a thought. But this special process only occurs in humans and other predators for spotting and catching prey. That's the hunting skill the lifeguard uses to home in on the struggling swimmer. We can all find the detail we need in a busy scene when it's for our own safety. But when guarding the lives of others, that same skill requires training and intense focus. In day-to-day life, we fill in parts of the passing picture. as our visual memory makes shortcuts and assumptions, putting together a picture of the world that seems complete. What happens when those assumptions prove wrong? That's where we get the phrase smoke and mirrors, the tools of visual confusion illusionists use to exploit the science of sight to fool our vision. Movies present spectacular sights and grand illusions. This is a movie set, but how big? What looks like a space station on an alien planet is a trick.
68B, take 1.
A tiny model near the camera and a full-size stage further away.
Filmmakers are essentially the masters of illusion. Here, we see the two actors, we assume they're in a massive set because we don't have the ability to think, hold on a second, this is just a small set and the actors are a considerable distance away from it.
Cut.
Visual illusions trip up the perceptual system, the system that is normally right. Here, we're exploiting the loopholes when suddenly we're very, very wrong.
Illusions exploit how we see the world. They rely on the difference between what the eye sees and what the brain understands. Magicians have always relied on this delicate confusion.
Hi there. I'm Marco Tempest. I'm a magician. Now here's a little optical illusion. Now let me show you just how easy it is to fool the eye. I have a three-dimensional object right here, and I also have a two-dimensional object, this paper disc. Now if I place the three-dimensional object next to the two-dimensional object, something very strange is happening. Check this out. It looks like the two-dimensional object has become three-dimensional. But if we get rid of the three-dimensional object, something else is happening. Check this out. Did you see? The cube now looks like it's completely two-dimensional. All right, here we go.
From another angle, the secrets reveal themselves.
I also have a two-dimensional object, this paper disc, right here. Now if I place a check next
Underlying the trick is a genuine scientific principle, explaining how our brains build a three-dimensional visual world.
Check this out. Right, this is all about how we read perspective. The three-dimensional cube, once established as being three-dimensional, stays three-dimensional in our mind. Even when we look at the taped lines, it still looks three-dimensional to us. It's almost like our eye fills in the missing information and wants the object to be three-dimensional. And that's where I get you. All right.
Our world is filled with visual information. The brain